Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another great episode of Lazio Lounge. Before starting, Alistair, can you read me, please, the table of Serie A?
Let's just have a look. That can't be right. It's saying here that Lazio are number one, Vittorio.
Are you really sure about that?
I don't know. It says 62 points from 26 games. It can't be right.
Wow, incredible. Okay, we'll check later. Anyway, Alistair, welcome. I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling about coronavirus? I know the situation there is not great.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm okay. The situation in Rome, thankfully, is a lot better than it is in other parts of Italy. Most of it's the worst hit regions are in the north, as I'm sure most people know, and so far there's been very little of it going on down here. So it's not really the apocalypse like some people seem to think it is. Life is kind of going on as normal. If anything, there are way fewer tourists in town because a lot of people are cancelling their trips because of it. But otherwise, you wouldn't notice the difference, to be honest. So, yeah, all good for now. But it is being quite disruptive to the football, unfortunately.
And we have a guest with us because directly from the Lazio Club Toronto, we have Michael Di Mascio. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Your best friends back again, live and in color this time. Thank you for having me.
I like the shirt, the scarf behind you, Mike.
Oh, thank you. This is all my wife has allowed me, this little space in my house, my shrine. So I come here to pray and I come here to celebrate as well because there must be a mistake. But according to Alistair, we're in first place. Capolista.
That's how it looks.
Just refresh the page again. And
to try what you can. There must be a lag or something.
It's unbelievable. Last time Lazio was top of the table in March, I was still in Rome and wasn't married. So. It was 20 years ago. You remember what happened that year?
Something apparently, yeah. Something.
You have some wisdom to share with us? A story? Tell us about 2000.
Well, it was a Scudetto, guys. I was there in Curva Nord that day. I did all the... Do you remember the processione that the Irriducibili did saying football is dead? And then we went in the pitch and the Curva was desert for the first 15 minutes of Lazio Regina. I was the only idiot who came in because I said, I'm not wasting the match, 15 minutes of that match. And then I remember after Perugia Juventus, I had such a headache. I couldn't handle it. I was so nervous, not only the Lazio match, then other 45 minutes of Juventus match. I was destroyed. And then Piazza del Popolo celebrating with the family, all Lazio fan there. It was an incredible day, really something you'll never forget.
And who scored the first goal in that game against Regina? I think it was the first goal.
Yeah, I think it was the first goal, the first penalty. Simone Inzaghi. He kicked it even really, really bad, to be honest, I remember. He moved on the right. He was slow and central penalty. But, it worked out. And then Diego Simeone scored. In Verona. What a night. What a day.
Good times. Well, I mean, yeah, now new history is being written. We should reluctantly say that we are top with a game in hand, maybe. I don't know if we should. But it's been quite a disruptive weekend, guys. It's the first thing I wanted to ask you about because we've had quite a few people come to us about this on Twitter, on social media. With all the disruption going on with the fixture postponements, obviously the big one being the Inter Juve game over the weekend. I don't know. I mean, what are your Mike? What was your reaction to the postponement of that game from a Lazio standpoint? I suppose after going top of the league, were you happy that they're having the game postponed and thinking about the fact that it gives us an advantage to be up there for longer, or would you rather just have things as they are?
Yeah, I think disruption is a great way to summarize it. But looking from the outside, looking in, and I can't be a fortune teller or anything like that. I think it will work in our favor, the fact that it's being postponed, specifically Juventus and Inter, to May 13th, because you have to think about that condensed schedule in May for those teams. I have to think that somebody's going to drop points somewhere with all those games being condensed so close. But on the other hand, too, you would want them to play each other coming out of a Champions League week and a Europa League week for both teams, too, which is kind of where I'm thinking for Atalanta-Lazio, where I want the game to go forward this weekend, knowing that Atalanta has to play in the Champions League. And that's kind of the approach I'm going with. So, yeah, on the one hand, I have to think that it'll be better for us down the road to have them postponed, especially with all the pressure that'll be on at least one of the two teams going into that game, depending on what Champions League commitments or how far Inter has gone on the Europa League by that point.
I think there is an update. They are thinking of moving the next Serie A match, so Lazio-Atalanta will not be this Saturday, the week afterwards. But they are changing so many times. I'm getting lost. So probably Lazio-Atalanta won't be played this weekend, but will be played the week afterwards, and Juventus-Inter should be this weekend if they don't change again and again and again.
This is the thing. There's almost no point in us saying this, because by the time this podcast is published, they'll have changed their mind and they're doing something else. So
and guys, it was funny because I was saying this year it's incredible because Serie A it's probably the most interesting league in Europe, right? Premier League finish in October because Liverpool already won it. Spain, Madrid, and Barcelona playing not that well. France never started, and Serie A was great. And then why don't we mess it up, right? It's too easy for us, and that's what they did. Cancel matches, close door, then postpone, and it's a complete disaster. It's really, and people now are saying, Lotito is the boss of Italian football. Agnelli is the boss of Italian football. No, Marotta said no on Monday, etc. This has been, the worst publicity for Italian football. Yeah, we done it ourselves. This is.
Leave it to the Italians to mess it up, right?
It's the kind of irony of this all starting because the Lega Serie A basically decided that it would reflect badly on Italian football for them to broadcast games without any fans in the stadium. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but if you don't realize the irony of that, this reflects way worse on Italian football, what you've done as a cause of that decision, than anything else. But for me, I would much rather games just went ahead, because it is getting to a stage. One of the questions we had actually here from Judith Spins-Sukamto was that is there's any chance of the Fiji Chiefs stopping the league completely? And, that was one of the comments from Marotta earlier this week, talking about the real possibility of them basically not having time to actually complete all the fixtures with the Euros coming up at the end of the season, all the European, Champions League, Europa League, Coppa Italia games. And yeah, for me, they just have to backtrack on the closed doors thing. I think the only way this is going to happen and that they're going to be able to complete the season is by playing games behind closed doors. And the problem is they've now set this precedent by cancelling those games, where now teams like Inter are, quite rightly, you could argue, going to complain about that because they've kind of favoured Juve by moving the date of that game. But I think it's the only way it's going to happen, because you can't postpone another round of fixtures this weekend. There's no time left to do it. So for me, I think that if we're going to hope to actually complete a season, we just need to make sure these games happen in some way, shape or form. As Lazio fans, it's very frustrating, I think, but for all of us, because things are going so well at the moment that you don't want this to become the big narrative this season. You don't want this to overshadow any of the accomplishments of the team, who, don't forget, we're already in this position before any of this started. But that's what's going to happen. So,
yeah, and let's not forget that Roma and Lazio will play away the last matches because the Stadio Olimpico is needed for the Euros 2020. So, even if Lazio and Roma should postpone matches, the stadium would be busy, so they cannot play. So it's going to be a nightmare. I think the Coppa Italia has been already moved to Milan because of this. So it's a mess. It's really a mess. So they have to play. And I agree with what Gattuso said after the match, that all teams play the same day or they postpone all the matches because things change. But you have to finish the league some way or another. So this is going to be very interesting because case of coronavirus are increasing. If I'm not wrong, they said in Milan numbers have increased. So I don't know how it's going to end, but they have to do it anyway.
Yeah, and the problem is the whole thing is so unprecedented that you could forgive them for not immediately knowing what to do about this, right? Because it's a situation that no one has ever come across before, and it's a very confusing situation to be in, and you need to put public health first. Absolutely, you do. And that is much more important in football, is making sure that this virus is contained as much as it can. But that in itself doesn't excuse the complete mismanagement of this situation from the authorities, and the fact that they've basically gone against government advice at times in order to get their own way. So it's a bit of a sham. It's a bit of a shame that it's kind of overshadowing things going on a weekend that otherwise, the big talking point is we're what, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes in here, and we've not even mentioned that Lazio won a game this weekend. We beat Bologna 2-0. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame that.
Yeah, we did our part. We did our part with the pressures on everybody else now.
Yeah, and it was a complicated match because Bologna is a good team. They have back a couple of players that was missing in the last couple of weeks. Lazio had the pressure because everybody knew that winning that match would put Lazio on top of the table. Acerbi wasn't there. We played again with Johnny without Lulic. So, there were some question marks. And I thought the first 21st minute of the match, Lazio was unbelievable. Lazio played really, really well. And, if maybe instead of Correa there was Caicedo, that match could have finished 4-0 just in the first 24 minutes. I thought Lazio played really great football. And it was good to see, especially knowing that Acerbi wasn't there, Johnny was playing. So it was a good performance, at least the first 21st minutes, I think.
Yeah, well, one of the questions we got, I'll send this your way, Mike, from Per Nielsen, saying, why did the team stop playing after 30 minutes? It could have gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, I think Vittorio's right. Regardless of who started, the first half could have easily ended 6-1. I was thinking about, and we can't overlook the sensational start from Strakosha, because when it was 1-0, he made that great save that turned into a counterattack, and Tucu Correa makes it 2-0. So it could have easily been 1-1. And then there were times where Lazio could have pulled forward. I mean, Immobile didn't bring the right shoes. He should have had at least 2 goals. He ate 2 goals easily on his own, maybe even 3. I lost count. So, yeah, we can look at why did Lazio stop playing, but they might not have had to play into the second half is kind of where I'm going at, because they started so well with the signal of intent. And it started with Lazzari from that first rush, taking the ball from before half and just basically bullying his way into the Bologna territory. And this is a Bologna team that starting the match, and this is the reoccurring theme, and which is what's so refreshing about this season, is you don't have to be that pessimistic Lazio fan going into the matches anymore where you have to worry about teams. So last week, for example, I was worried going into the Genoa match because Genoa had been the Bastianera. But we score right off the bat with Marusic. We are a different team now. We don't have to play like that where I should worry about the fact that we're at home to Bologna. Really, we are creating a winning mentality now. And this is not the Bologna that steamrolled Roma a few weeks ago with Barro. This was not the same Bologna side. They were shell-shocked from Lazio and our intent. And we had a little bit of luck on our side as well, with Strakosha making the save, with VAR overturning things. Everything went our way, and that's what's making this season so special. So I don't know if it's so much that we stopped playing the second half, whereas we changed gears a little bit, and we didn't need to put in the same performance as we did in the first half.
I thought part of the reason was even Luis Alberto. We saw him struggling. Inzaghi took him off at the beginning of the second half. I thought it was the right decision. He wasn't 100% fit. You could notice that. And without Luis Alberto, this is a different team. So I think that's one of the reasons. Even as Michael was saying before, I didn't think that was the best performance of Ciro Immobile this year. And even playing not great, he made an assist. So, I'll take it all the time. But he missed one great chance in the first half, another one incredible in the second half. Usually Ciro Immobile puts one in of those 2 chances. So I think the two strikers didn't play very well on Sunday, but still Lazio managed to win. And we have to talk about Patrick because, guys, last year I was scared every time Patrick was coming in the pitch. He played great. I mean, Michael was mentioning Barrow. Barrow tried to do something. Patrick neutralized Barrow. I was astonishing. He played so well, and you have to say he's the surprise of the season, or maybe he's one of the surprise. One of the reasons why Lazio is there is because Patrick started playing like a great defender. And this is one of the reasons why Bologna didn't score yesterday, Sunday. I thought, no, was it Saturday? Yeah. I thought Patrick played great football, and Luis Felipe as well, Leiva, obviously. There are all these players that normally was on the bench, and when they come in, made disasters, that this year are playing great football.
Yeah, Patrick, for me, was the kind of standout player, and I think it says an awful lot that in the last 2 weeks, well, today and last week, the players we've kind of singled out are Denis Vavro and Patrick, guys who have been ridiculed at times, who've made bad mistakes and so on, but, with time, with patience, Inzaghi's turning these guys into very commendable footballers. And Patrick in particular, yeah, I mean, he's got that kind of athleticism. He's quite an entertaining defender to watch because he doesn't really look or behave like a defender. But I think he might have got a hat trick of overhead clearances yesterday.
Oh my God, yeah.
Sometimes a bit unnecessary, but yeah, I mean, I think he's a great option against a player like Barrow who wants to run at you, wants to try and get around you. To have someone as agile, as quick as Patrick up against him actually seemed to be a good tactic from Inzaghi, because he was obviously in the pre-match press conference quite clearly a bit split on what to do with his defensive selection, because I think he wanted to reward Vavro in some way for his performance against Genoa, and he was very complimentary of Vavro for that game. But at the same time, he was hinting, this game is against Bologna is more suited to having Felipe in there and having Patrick there, and I think he was absolutely right. And yeah, like you said, Mike, I think Lazio rode their luck a little bit in terms of, you've got the VAR overturning decisions, which otherwise in the pre-VAR eras would probably have been goals. But it's another clean sheet at the end of the day. And this defence, despite all the changes, despite Acerbi being out of the team, is continuing to kind of hold strong. And that for me is really encouraging, because I did wonder, if you take Acerbi out of this team, does it all crumble to the ground? Apparently not.
I would add for Patric, I remember a year ago, probably around this time, he was starting to already come into his own in the three-man defense. Remember against Milan in the Coppa Italia, we were having the similar conversation where he was keeping Piontek in check. And he did the same thing with Barrow. So this is not something overnight. This has been a labor of love from Inzaghi, giving him the reins and showing some faith. And I'm hoping the same thing will happen with Johnny, because I'm still not convinced with his performance on the weekend. So this is Inzaghi time over time, trying to instill some confidence and give responsibilities. And yeah, Patrick is so eccentric with the overhead kicks. I went back and I watched the game before we chatted, and I was just laughing to myself because it was so unnecessary, some of the clearances. But that's what you're going to get from the guy. But if you give him the responsibility, and maybe if you keep it simple for him or simplify it, this is your man. Barrow is your guy. You stick to him throughout the game. You man mark him properly, and you give him those responsibilities, and maybe he'll repay you. But with Inzaghi, he's going to have really hard decisions to make, because if you notice at the end of the game, and I'm really into the psychology of everybody's winning, everybody's happy. Our buddy Bastos wasn't so happy after the end of the game. I saw him walk out of the tunnel, and Inzaghi had to make a beeline for him, give him a hug, maybe say a few words to him. And he's probably wondering, why can't I get into this team now? I can score. I can defend sometimes.
Have you listened to Lazio-Lounge, Simone? Come on.
So that's what I mean. He's going to be hard pressed for guys like Vavro, guys like Bastos, to try to keep everybody on the same page. But I'm hoping that a guy like Johnny, who's been rewarded time and time again, mainly because of the injuries to Lulic, will hopefully start to do a little bit more, or convince me a little bit, because I think he was lacking a little bit on Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't like. I mean, it wasn't his worst performance Saturday against Bologna, but honestly, thinking about Saturday playing against Atalanta with Johnny on the side, I was really concerned. Now I don't know if Lulic will be able to recover, but against Genoa he didn't convince me. Against Inter he was bad. Against Bologna, he was decent, but nothing amazing. You know, you're going to play against Atalanta, that is a very dangerous team who attacks on the wingers. I really hope Inzaghi is going to or try Lukaku or switch Marusic on the other side, because I'm sorry to say it, but Johnny, I'm not convinced. He's a work in progress, I think. He has to adapt to a very different position, and it's going to take time. Maybe 1 year, maybe like Patrick, a couple of years. I don't know, but yeah, I see it very dangerous to play him against Atalanta. So I would love to say, hey, I'm happy of Johnny's performance, but I have to be honest, and I think he's still the weak spot of this team at the moment. Patrick have improved, Luis Felipe is playing well, Radu's playing amazingly well, and so on. Johnny is the question mark we have. And against Bologna, you can still win. Against Atalanta, Inter, or Juventus, I don't think so. I'm really concerned.
Yeah, Johnny was exploited against Inter. Lest we forget, in both matches against Inter, and he cost us one of our 2 losses this season. It was by his poor marking. So we know we're not going to get defense out of him. When it comes to defense, I'd rather have Lulic. But Lukaku, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't even on the bench on Saturday.
I think he was on the bench. He was warming up. He didn't train on Friday, so there was question marks. But he was on the bench, and he's warming up every single match. He never gets in. I don't know what's wrong with him. Inzaghi said he's not fit to start a match. He's ready to come in. But guys, I mean, when he's going to be fit enough?
No way he's fit. Yeah, but I mean, there's just no way. I mean, the guy's barely been fit the whole time he's been at Lazio.
Can you put the picture of him eating at McDonald's on the front now for the transition? We just need the picture of him ordering the Happy Meal and the Big Mac, please.
And by the way, I don't know if you knew, but Falbo, do you remember the young guy from Primavera that made his debut in Europe League? He's the left winger of Lazio Primavera. He was injured too. So Saturday, we only have Johnny on that side. It wasn't terrible, only to think about it. So...
But on this note, there's a question we had from David who said, "I'm so spoiled with Lazio this year that I wasn't satisfied with their performance against Bologna." What do you guys think? And I guess we're kind of already going down this road where sometimes you do need to pinch yourself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with pointing out the criticisms and the doubts you have and so on, but the fact of the matter being top of the league and now in a Europe-wide unbeaten run, and do you think that do you find yourselves doing that sometimes, where you kind of are used to, I suppose, a certain way of analysing Lazio games, and then you have to suddenly wake up and remind yourself, well, actually, wait, this Lazio team's different. Look at where we are.
Mike?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think with every VAR overturn, every penalty called in our favor, I ask myself, where would we be any other season but now? Because that game would have finished 2-2 under normal circumstances on any other season. So it's not so much spoiled, but yeah, pinch myself. But I like what we're building because, like I said right off the top, we're creating that winning mentality that Juventus has had for so many seasons, where they don't know any better but to just keep winning. So I guess you would have to ask a Juventus fan how spoiled they are, and that's what I usually ask them when I see them, when they can find errors in the way their team is playing. Not so much this year, but in years past, they'll still find errors. And look at us, we're finding the weak link in Saturday's game with Joni. So. Yeah, I wouldn't say so much spoiled, but we're realistic. We know what's around the corner. Suffering is usually around the corner. So let's enjoy the moment.
I have to say that I'm a little bit spoiled because I complained about Lazio in the second half Saturday. I wasn't happy. Most of all, I was scared because, let's be honest, in the past, how often did we say Lazio dominating the first half and then getting beaten in the second, right? Let's not forget Genoa-Lazio last year. Lazio scored with Badel, and then in the second half, Genoa was able to win the match. So I'm always scared when Lazio's playing because memory of the past. So I thought, playing a little bit more offensive in the second half would have helped me. But I think this team is so convinced. This incredible streak started the 25th of September, gave confidence to this team. They are convinced that they can really beat any single team. Juventus, Inter, Genoa, they don't care. They simply think they can win. So this gives them extra confidence. And this is why even if we don't play 95 minutes at high level, we are able to win matches like we did Saturday.
How about this then from Stefano Federici? If Lazio beat Atalanta, do you think there will be no stopping them in the race for the Scudetto? Go on, Mike.
Well, I was just going to add to Vittorio's point before I say hello to Stefano, an old friend of the chat, him and his brother, of course, they're big Lazio fans. They are convinced, Vittorio. You are right. I remember at the holiday party, I think it was just after Christmas, and that video leaked of Caicedo saying, Vinciamo Scudetto, and I thought, these guys are so silly. But they really believe it now. And now it's become almost an internet sensation. A few memes have generated that, being one of them. And the second one of Lotito in his chair asleep. That's got to be my favorite. That needs to be printed on a banner every time we win. And I just want to throw it out there. Campionato falsato. That's going to be the headline. The first day in all the Torino-based newspapers after we win the Scudetto in May. It's going to be that big picture of Lotito asleep in his chair. And then it'll say with the headline, Campionato falsato, after they try to cancel the league on us. But to answer your question about Atalanta-Lazio Saturday, if it plays Saturday, they are confident too. You heard Duvan Zapata's comments. They scored 7 goals on the weekend. It's not the first time they've done something like that. They are a dangerous team. But to think this is where it all started, that unbeaten streak, of course, started in September, but the real turn and the belief was the 3-3 match in October against Atalanta. So it's finally, we've come full circle now, a full turn of all the teams. And I think that'll be a great measuring stick. We've beaten Inter. We've beaten Juventus. We've beaten Milan. We've upset all our old streaks, the ones that Vittorio referenced, being afraid, the negative streak in Milan. We've overturned everything. What's more left to do but go out now and win and yeah, just keep pinching yourselves because we're buckled up for a bumpy ride till May.
I'm on the Lega Serie A and the table still says Lazio 62, Juventus 60, Inter 54.
Non ci posso credere. No, it's got to be a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to change it later. But going back to, I don't think it's going to be the match that's going to change everything. Let's remember, Lazio's playing against Juventus at the Juventus Stadium. So, Juventus has a match on hand and will play at home against Inter and Juventus. We are doing something amazing, but Juventus is the favorite for the Scudetto. Obviously, if Lazio wins against Atalanta and then goes to Turin and wins against Juventus, then, yeah, that changes everything. But that's going to be the decisive match. Against Atalanta is going to be really tough, but let's not forget that Spal beat Atalanta at home. So this team is struggling at home and playing great football away. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lazio won it. But unfortunately, it would be very, very important for the Champions League because the first goal for Lazio is qualifying for the Champions League. So if you beat Atalanta, the gap is going to be 20 points, should be 20 points. So, it's not automatic, but it's nearly there. The Scudetto, you have to beat Juventus away.
It has been quite
interesting. And travel to Naples.
Yeah. It has been quite interesting noticing that that kind of party line has started to split a little bit, where up until this point has very much been like, right, guys, if you get asked this question about the Scudetto, you have to say we're just in it for the top 4. And now you get, I think it was Lucas Leiva came out after the Bologna game, and he was, still saying, yes, we have to believe in the Champions League qualification. But then you also get some others popping up and kind of breaking free and yeah, come on, Scudetto, and or we believe in it or whatever. And I do feel like that with each passing week, it's going to be harder and harder for them to control that desire to actually state that objective, because the players are going to be, if they're not already there, they're going to be very close to being at a point where they believe they can do it, because they do just have the wind in their sails. It feels like everything's going their way. Like you say, the Bologna game on another season could have ended up finishing 2-2, but this season it hasn't. And where other teams have had games postponed, we've still been able to get a full crowd in. And by the way, I should say as well, I was at the stadium on Saturday, and it didn't have any effect, this virus stuff. It was a big crowd still. It was over 40,000, so it's the same crowd we would have got normally. So it's not even like it's had a knock-on effect in that way anyway. So I just think like we're right on the verge of at least in terms of this team's mentality, which is already so strong, kind of pushing from that of being one way we can beat anyone in this league to being one of we can actually win this league. And I think in terms of answering that original question, I think I agree with you, Vittorio, that the Juve game away is the obviously the crucial one in terms of actually achieving that. But I think beating a team like Atalanta would actually be a huge point, considering the stage of momentum we're at right now, for this team to actually think, I really believe that we can go on and do this. So I really hope it's not suspended, but it's not looking good. I mean, even while I've been on this podcast, I've seen some reports coming through about potential changes to the...
It could be even better to play next week, because they're playing the Champions League against Valencia on Wednesday. So, they could be a little bit fatigued. Instead, playing before, maybe Gasperini could rest some players. So, it's never that bad. And you were saying that Inter will have a tough schedule in May. Yes, but Inter in the last 2 weeks didn't play. So they had the chance to rest players. This is another advantage that people don't consider. Lazio have been playing these 2 weeks with players injured. Luis Alberto, now we don't know how he is, while Inter rested players. In May they will play more matches, but now they rested for 2 weeks. It's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad. I mean, if Inzaghi could choose to have a week of rest, he would say, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So I don't know how things will end, but I don't think Lazio has been favored that much from this issue of coronavirus. Even though I read Roma fans saying that Lotito brought the coronavirus to Italy.
That's what I heard too.
That's why Milana went to China, right? He had to.
Yes. We've come a far. It's a far cry from the last time I was in the stadium, 2016, and the Lotito Vaffanculo chants were rampant. So we've come a long way. Now Lotito's in investigating and creating viruses for everyone. So he's still up to no good, of course, falling asleep in his chair.
Alistair, I checked again. Lazio 62, Juventus 60, 54.
Still there.
I refreshed the page. It's still there.
I didn't think Italy was a third world country, but maybe their internet speed is not up to date. They can't handle the virus. Maybe they can't handle their webpage either.
I don't know.
Check another website, Vittorio. Check like ESPN, some of the North American sites.
Okay, I'll go to Gazzetta. That they really love us.
Yeah, of course.
One other question we've had on Twitter. Alexander Mikkelsen, regular question asker. He said it's interesting if we'll keep the same players for another season. Will we have the same starting 11 when new season begins? And if not, who will we have sold or relegated to the bench? So I guess Vittorio's saying Johnny.
Well, I hope next year Vavro will start playing, right? Because we spent 11 million euro on him. So I
starting 11 next year.
Say again?
You think he'll be in the starting 11 next season?
I think next summer Inzaghi will try to find a space for him. So maybe work out and move Acerbi on the left side, because Rado is not getting younger, so maybe he won't be able to play all those matches. So maybe moving Acerbi on the left side, they can play one match, one and one the other, and you can finally use Vavro on the central position. I think that's going to be the main point, and obviously solve the left back position. Lulic again, They're talking about renew his contract, but again, he's 34. He's gonna be so. We need to find a solution there. And we talked about Lukaku. I don't think that's the solution. Johnny doesn't look like. We need to sign a player, I think, there.
And Mike, what about the other part of that question? Do you think that we'll be able to keep hold of all these players as well? You know, the stars of this team, your Milinkovic-Savic, your Luis Alberto.
Well, we have SMS under contract for a long time, so the club doesn't have to sell him if they don't want to. He's not nearing the end of his deal. I think let's cross that bridge when we have to in terms of all these players. I know everybody already wants to think about next year, but we have the benefit of nothing to lose at this moment and to just strive for as much as we can attain this season. I know that the football manager and everybody wants to make the tweaks. Let's be honest. We can't go another season as Radu and Lulic together on the left side every game in, game out. Radu was saved by a moment of madness on Saturday. He essentially assisted and pretty much single-handedly helped Bologna with the goal that was overturned. We can't continue like this. We know that. But it's been like this for years. But yet we still roll out Lulic. He is the most competent left-sided player we have. The hope is Johnny will improve because Vittorio, we spent some money on him, or we might be pulled into the more legal troubles with him. So the hope is that these guys will improve. And I think the most important person you have to keep next year is Simone Inzaghi, because you can see what kind of work he's done. He's been the most important player of this team year in and year out. And I was really worried last summer that this was the end of the road after the Coppa Italia, but we managed to keep him. I don't know what happened in the summer where it looked like, he was evaluating offers, but he's going to be the hardest person to keep a hold of after this year.
I think Luis Alberto is going to be the key point of next season because, Lazio doesn't have a regista, and I know they're talking about renewing his contract. I don't know if it's done yet, but you see that the team is playing different football without him. And do we see a replacement somewhere? I'm not sure. Obviously, there's Raul Moro, who's playing with the Primavera. He's really talented, but he's more a winger than a playmaker. So that he could be a nice addition for next year. Not sure, maybe he's a little bit young. He's just turned 17 in January. So, yeah, I think Luis Alberto is the key point. You can sell Milinkovic-Savic, for example, and find another player of that level, but a playmaker, a regista like Luis Alberto, I think it's rare in this football.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's quite hard to see how we'll really lose players unless we're looking to get rid of them, because if they've been happy to stay along for the ride up until this point, and then we achieve the objective of getting in the Champions League and can offer them that and the extra money that will come with that and the more lucrative contracts inevitably as well, and build a stronger team, and they're all so bought into the Inzaghi project as well. I can't see Inzaghi going anywhere. I think if he was going to, it would have been last summer. There's definitely not a chance he's going to leave this summer. So, yeah, I mean, I think the club are in a pretty strong position, to be honest. For me, I think we need a backup to Lucas Leiva as well as Alberto. I think both
Escalante.
And Parolo too, yeah.
Escalante, yeah, but I suppose we don't really know what he's going to offer yet. Left wing back, you're right, absolutely. I think we need another Vice Immobile. I mean, I feel like I'm a stuck record by now, but yeah, we still need a Vice Immobile 3 years later, believe it or not. And yeah, could do with another couple of defenders for me as well if we're going to actually challenge. But yeah, like Mike said, I think save these in-depth discussions probably for closer to the end of the season anyway.
We already made the right move. We got rid of Berisha at the January transfer window, which made me so pleased. And I just didn't see him fitting with the culture of this team. So they already are making the right moves on the market and standing pat with the team they have. And they can recognize who they need to get rid of, anybody unhappy. So I hope Bastos gets in some game time soon, because we have no Coppa Italia. We have no friendlies coming up. We have no European commitment. So do the right thing, Simone. Beautiful Bastos needs to play.
I think Bastos is too dangerous. He's making stupid mistakes, and if you're fighting for the Scudetto, you cannot have a defender who makes stupid mistakes. He scores, but even the other team to score. So he's dangerous.
So is Radu. So with the luck that we're having, Bastos can make all the mistakes he wants. They're going to get overturned, and he'll probably score a wonder goal or two along the way.
We'll see.
Having Bastos on the bench is like having a beautiful golden eagle in a cage. You have to open it and let it fly. Let those wings.
But Alistair, if Bastos pays you, you should divide with us as well. It's not fair that
at least with me.
Yeah, at least with him.
I mean, these are all underhand deals, you guys. You're not going to know about them. And Bastos is really pulling the strings. Final question. This is the last one we got on Twitter, but it was about the other kind of, I suppose, off-field news this week about the Irriducibili. And Darahenzi wants to know what we think about the disbandment of the Irriducibili and what it'll mean for the club. But Vittorio texted you about this at the time, and doesn't seem like it's so much a disbandment as a kind of renaming, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you were at the party before the match, right? On Saturday.
Yeah, I went up to Ponte Milvio. I mean, yeah, it was the same old stuff, though. Really, you just have the ultras all there. They had a big banner. I mean, it's a new banner. They essentially renamed themselves Ultras Lazio, and I think it's a kind of all-encompassing title, maybe. Obviously, Diabolic was murdered at the start of the season, and that's had a bit of an effect. I'm not in with the Ultras. I don't have any particular affiliation with the Ultras, so it's not really my area of expertise, if I'm honest, but it does seem more or less from what I've read like this is just more or less the same thing happening, but under a different banner.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong, but I think as Piscitelli was the owner of the name, I think they had to change it because of, it could be, this is the only thing I can think about. Maybe law problems because the owner of the logo of the name was Piscitelli's family. So maybe that's the reason. But as far as I know, they are the same guys that were before. They simply changed the name. So there shouldn't be any big difference compared to what happened before and what's happening now.
From what I understand, it's a lot of the same members, maybe some new ones. So yeah, you can just change name. It's ultimately it's probably a good thing. Hopefully we can remove some of the negative connotation with the word irriducibili, but it won't take long, I'm sure, before we're caught up in a negative moment again, and it'll just be the same figureheads, part of the same issues.
And in terms of the kind of positive stuff, though, associated with them, I doubt this is going to impact the choreographies and so on that happen before games, especially after the season we've just had, which has been, I can't remember ever a season like this one where there have been so many amazing choreographies happening before games. So I'm hopeful that that's going to continue. But yeah, nothing else to add, really.
We had even the choreography in away team. I thought that was unbelievable against Genoa, right? 2 weeks ago. That was simply unexpected and very positive, I thought. So, I mean, this team deserves everything. They're playing amazing football. They're surprising everybody. So yeah, it's good to see the fan. It's good to see the Stadio Olimpico again. The attendance this year grew a lot, and it's good to see 40,000 people there for the Lazio match. There are more fans at Lazio match than Roma match this year. So to be honest, even last year was the same, but this year the gap got wider, and so it's really good to see. I mean, the team deserve it, and so yeah, I think it's good to see even from away.
It was another great atmosphere as well on Saturday, and the one thing I really liked, and actually Joaquin Correa picked up on this after the game in his interviews, that the crowd are almost more supportive of the players after they make a mistake at the moment than they are when something good happens. It's almost like we're so used to them doing good things that they need more encouragement when bad things happen. So I think it was after Correa missed quite a bad chance in the first half, and the crowd immediately responded by cheering him on. And it's like the same with Ciro when he missed. Everyone immediately starts singing his name, and And it was nice to hear that's filtering through to the players and that they're really getting that connection. And I've spoken about this quite a lot before. There's just this feeling in the crowd this year and this connection with the players, and it does feel different than I've ever really experienced before. And it's a really good atmosphere in there. It's been great fun. So hopefully they keep it open.
Guys, we've come a long way from the first derby in September where the ultras were asking them not to celebrate under the Curva Nord. Look at where we've come already just this season alone in terms of what you've just illustrated to us, Alistair, that they're applauding Correa doing Correa things, which are making mistakes when it's easier to score. I mean, that's one of his traits. He does all the hard work to penetrate the box, and then he misses the chance or he fluffs his shot. So we've come a long way alone just in this season, and it's great to see a full Olimpico most of the time.
Yep, I mean, it's a great season. I think it's incredible. And yeah, talking about the derby of September, I still can't understand how we didn't win it. But, probably now we would have won it. We would have found a way to win it. And thinking about the Spal defeat, imagine where Lazio would have been now with 3 points from the Spal match that still I cannot believe we lost. So, but yeah.
And in the intermatch, there is a good argument to say that should have been 0-0. That was another match. That's Johnny.
Candreva. Correa, sorry, missed so many chances even there. Yeah. We could equalize that. So, I think it has been a great season. It's not finished yet. There's still an incredible achievement. Lazio is 17 points ahead of Roma. 17, which, it's not bad, I would say.
It's pretty cold.
Yeah, it's quite cold there. I don't know if Alistair has a jacket there, but it's unbelievable. If you think that Gazzetta dello Sport, Sky Sport, and other Italian newspaper was saying that Roma was fighting for the Champions League spot and Lazio would have finished behind Torino, and now we are on top of the league. It's a decent season, I would say.
Are you sure we're on top of the league? Did you check even the North American sites?
Yeah. It still says 62 points. I don't know. Must be a bug.
Should maybe check one final time before we finish. Just make sure.
Yeah, I'm always here refreshing. Don't worry. Still 62, 60, 54. Atalanta, 48. So.
And then Roma one more time. Let's hear that. Where are they?
Roma is 45 and Napoli is 39. Guys, I feel that Napoli could finish the season ahead of Roma. They're playing well now, and they are a good team. So Roma can really risk to finish sixth because Napoli, I think with Gattuso, they're gonna recover.
But don't we want Roma in European placement, specifically the Europa League for next season, rather than no European commitments whatsoever?
Well, you have to wait and see what happens with the financial fair play for Roma, because they are not going to be able to attend the rules of the financial fair play. No chance. So
the same thing is going to happen like Milan, where they're going to have to just bow out anyways.
Or find an agreement, probably. So, but we'll see. I mean...
But yet we're the ones who invented the coronavirus.
Yeah, absolutely. Alistair, do you have your stats for today? Come on.
Got a couple to finish us off. I think I already mentioned one earlier, but I'll say it again because it's nice. 21 games without defeat, and after Watford went and smashed Liverpool at the weekend, didn't see that coming. It's now the longest unbeaten run in Europe, and by quite some distance as well. The next is Bayern Munich and Verona, amazingly. Both have 9 games unbeaten. So 21 top in Europe and then 9 behind us. But also it's now the longest unbeaten run at home of the Lotito era. So 14 games unbeaten at home. So there you go. Not
that's
bad.
Just making your job easier. with
a
all
far
this
cry from when we were losing at home to Catania when Mihailovic was coaching, right?
Yeah, Maxi Lopez scored.
I remember those were the days where I thought we were going to get relegated.
Always remember.
And I think it was the first month that Diaz made his debut with Lazio, and at the beginning he was terrible. Then the year afterwards he was great. I loved him, but the first 3 months of Diaz at Lazio were awful, really awful.
No, but Alistair, it's important we remember how far we've come, because if I look at Mihailovic in the tunnel, in the bench, all I have to do is remember was that game against Catania. He was suspended. He was in the stands. He was shaking hands, with his assistant coach because they did the impossible. Catania came to Rome and they basically bossed Lazio around, and I really thought we were going to get relegated. That was 2010.
It was earlier. It was last month, a month before. It was once Lazio went very close to the top of the table, I realised it was 10 years to the day that Lazio sacked Ballardini while we were in the relegation zone.
That's right.
And I had all these people come back to me saying, that can't be right. They weren't in the relegation zone. I was like, have another look.
We were going to get relegated.
Yeah, but
Hitzelsberger.
Don't forget that
Hitzelsberger was the savior.
Ballardini beat Inter of Mourinho in the Supercoppa final with Baronio playing. Let's not forget about that. That was simply unbelievable.
All in the same season, Matusalem.
Absolutely. Muslera making incredible save in that match.
Highs and lows, eh?
Yeah, that's the life of a Lazio fan. If you don't like to suffer, you better change teams. It's not going to be for the faint of heart. The dialysis machines are out in Rome for the Romanisti right now, but most of the time they're reserved for us.
Well, if you like winning, you should support Juventus, not Lazio. But if you're a real fan and, enjoy football, etc., Lazio is your team. Full of history, full of incredible... They should make a film out of Lazio history. I mean, they're full of unbelievable stories, so...
Oh, maybe this is the season, and Inzaghi's going to be the leading man. Who should play him?
We've got some breaking news here. Sorry,
okay.
Appears to have been confirmed. The Lazio Atalanta is now going to take place on the 15th of March. So that is not this weekend, but the following one on the Sunday, which means a weekend off for Lazio this weekend. So sorry everyone who's already listened to almost an hour of this podcast of us talking about Atalanta. Now it's going to be 2 weeks away.
My goodness.
Well,
they might change their mind tomorrow anyway. So
yeah, in fact, but. We should be able to recover Acerbi, I hope. I don't know Lulic. I think it's not possible, but Acerbi should be achievable. And same thing, Luis Alberto. So after all, it's not bad. And Atalanta has to play Valencia on the Wednesday before. It's tough because they won 4-1 the first leg, but, maybe a 3-0, they go to penalties. No, 3-0, they Valencia win. So it's better if they do 4-1. So... penalties, overtime, etc. Who knows?
I don't want to stop the momentum. Ideally, we should play Saturday, and hopefully that changes. I hope by the end we do still play Saturday, because we're riding this streak, and I don't want it to stop. But just like the Queen song says, "Don't stop me now," because we're having such a good time.
Well, maybe a break to recover the injured player isn't that bad. We're gonna see. I mean.
But do you really want to be sitting come May going, man, if we didn't have that stop, who knows what would have happened? This is me channeling the 2010 season again. I can't get away from it yet.
You never know, so you cannot complain.
The scars are still fresh.
10 years later, still fresh.
Oh my God.
Okay. Michael, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks, Alistair. And thanks all you Laziali all over the world for joining us. Remember, you can find us on YouTube videos. You can see our lovely faces. Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you love to follow your podcasts. And remember to support our podcast. Patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts for $2 a month. So it's less than a cappuccino a month. And you can help us keeping up the show. The lovely golden microphone of Alistair came from your the webcam finally of Alistair as well. So this is where your money is going. So thank you very much. And if you like the show, please support us on Patreon. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Golden Microphone. And talk to you next Monday.
Forza Lazio.